Good morning, I'm Tanya Iser. I'm a senior investigative reporter. This morning I'm joined by legal analyst Stephanie Alvarado. She's going to be helping us to understand the events of the day. I just want to recap the events. This trial has already gotten complicated. We saw testimony from a teacher that led to a hearing and a call by the defense for a mistrial. Essentially what happened was she testified that she saw the shooter in black on the south side of the school, and that's really key because the defense is arguing that former Uvalde Schools officer Adrian Gonzales did not have line of sight of the shooter, and so then that led to this entire discussion that she had not originally told the Texas Rangers that, but she had brought a portion of this up to the prosecution when she was being prepared for trial. There was a hearing. Defense wanted a mistrial. The judge has said no, there will be no mistrial. But this morning we're going to see her take the stand again around 9 a.m. They're going to play that her statement that she gave to the Texas Rangers, and then she will be questioned. And then the judge, there'll be a decision about whether or not her testimony will be excluded. So that's the recap. Again, things have already gotten complicated in this trial, which is historic because it is the first trial of its kind in the state of Texas. Now we're going to go out to Rebecca Lopez, our senior crime and justice reporter who is in Corpus Christi. Rebecca, talk to us about the situation out there.
He did say that while he did not think that the prosecution acted with intention, he did say that they were negligent in what they did, that they, should have better prepared the defense. The defense said it was okay with them. I think that everybody wants this trial to move forward, including the families that were very relieved. But the families were very critical of prosecutors who basically, the families have been telling us the prosecutors are not communicating with them, and they're very upset. They really think that the prosecution should have been better prepared and done a better job, and they hope that what happened the last couple of days does not damage the case in the jury's eyes. So let's just recap with the story that I did yesterday at 10 o'clock. So we're going to go to that story right now, Tanya.
Families of the Robb Elementary School shooting victims left the courtroom relieved, but angry with prosecutors.
It caught us again by surprise, and I mean, if there was the one word that I could say about their team, is incompetent.
Defense attorneys asked for a mistrial after a prosecution witness testified she saw the shooter before he entered Robb Elementary, something she'd never said before. Defense attorneys argued prosecutors failed to disclose that information, further frustrating families.
To get their act together, to work with the witnesses.
In court, the Uvalde County District Attorney acknowledged she had not reviewed the witnesses' Texas Ranger interviews or her own team's notes, missing discrepancies before trial.
I had not reviewed Stephanie Hale's interview with the Rangers at the time that she appeared for trial preparation.
Defense attorneys argued jurors had already heard testimony that could damage their case, which centers on the claim Gonzales never saw the shooter. The new testimony placed both men in the same area.
We can't make them unhear what they heard.
After a hearing without the jury, the judge denied the mistrial but criticized prosecutors.
And I'll say for the record that I find, based upon what we heard yesterday, that this was not an intentional act. At best, it was a negligent act, or at worst.
The judge says he's now leaning towards striking the witness testimony after defense attorneys cross-examine her and expose inconsistencies to the jury. Families hope the case stays on track, while the defense attorneys say it may create reasonable doubt.
In front of the jury resonated.
And prosecutors, defense attorneys are expected to play the entire interview that she did with the Texas Rangers, where she never says that she saw the shooter. That's probably going to be one of the first things that happens, cross-examination, but they are definitely going to play that videotape and point out those inconsistencies, Tanya.
Yeah, and I think the question that the defense has here is, can you unring the bell sufficiently? Because obviously the jury hasn't heard all this discussion that we've been having about how this happened.
No, but when it first started happening and they started noticing that something was different, all of that did play out in front of the jury, and probably 15, 20 minutes into the back and forth between the prosecutors and the defense, the judge sent the jury out, and then they swore in the prosecutor, the Uvalde County DA, and started questioning her. Now, the jury wasn't present for that, but it will be interesting to see what happens today. And if the judge, I think he's definitely leaning towards he's going to toss out her testimony, but defense attorneys wanted to cross-examine her. They did not want the judge to immediately toss out her testimony because they want to be able to cross-examine her to try to unring the bell, as you said, so that they do hear those inconsistencies. So they wanted to be able to do that before the judge tosses out her testimony. But he's definitely leaning towards not allowing her testimony onto the record.
Well, as I was listening to the parents, I'm really struck by how angry they are. Typically families in these situations are more on the side of prosecutors, right? There's more of a connection, and I mean, they're calling the prosecutors, we're barely into this trial, and they're already calling them incompetent.
And that has been a very contentious relationship for a while, where these families feel like they are not getting or being heard by the Uvalde County District Attorney. This isn't the first time that we have heard them sharply criticize her, and that they feel like it's just taken too long. And then after years of preparing for this case, she seemed unprepared. And one of the things that she also said when defense attorney said, "How did you not know? How do you not understand that, this happened?" And she said, "I was busy running a law firm and I had other things to do." And so that really did not go well with the families, because they feel this is such an important case. It is a historic case in Texas. And the fact that they feel like the DA is not prepared is just not sitting well with them.
Yeah, and I struggle to understand why when you interview a witness before trial that you don't listen to what they told the Rangers right after the incident.
Right, because she said that, which they interviewed her 4 days afterwards, and then they re-interviewed her. The Rangers interviewed her 4 days after, but then prosecutors had been talking to her, but then they sat down with her back in December twice. And that's where the families believe that the prosecutor should have known what was coming. And if she did know, if they did say that, then the defense attorneys are saying, well, that's exculpatory evidence. It should have been turned over to us. Now, the defense thinks, well, obviously they thought there was a Brady violation, which means that the prosecutors would have known and didn't turn it over. But it's hard to say. I mean, the judge did not feel that there was intention on the part of the DA. But also, the family said, look, I think the judge ruled in our favor. He felt sorry for the families. We know that we need some sort of resolution. So maybe taking the fact that this is such an enormous case and everyone has waited for so long, especially these victims' families who have been through a lot of traumatic events, from having to listen to hearings at the state legislature to, everything that's happened as well along their journey. I feel like the judge also just wanted to, keep this case going so they wouldn't have to declare a mistrial and start all over again, maybe another change of venue, and then pick a whole nother jury. I think that would have been very difficult for not just the families, but for Adrian Gonzales. His attorneys are saying, he's going through a lot too, because he wants this out of the way. He says he wants to be vindicated. So it's not just about it's also about the defendant.
Yeah, and it's just a really difficult case. And, you and I both have covered law enforcement and criminal justice for a long time, and we've never seen anything quite like this. One, the trial, and then you see a prosecutor put on the stand. But it seems pretty clear that based on state law, based under the Michael Morton Act, that they just simply didn't follow the rules and didn't really seem to be aware of what the rules were. She said, well, we opened our files and, they could come over, but it's exculpatory. They have an affirmative duty to provide that information to the defense.
Well, and one of the things that the judge said is, yes, we have, it is really windy here in Corpus Christi today, but one of the things that the judge said is, look, in the defense, we had, by law, had to ask for a mistrial, but we're open to other remedies. And the judge cited a case that he said that they'd been waiting for a while to come down, and a ruling on Heath in Texas, which allows the judge more discretion as to what type of actions they can take in these sort of situations. And he felt that one of the remedies was to possibly toss out the testimony rather than having to declare a mistrial. And he did cite that other case, and perhaps our legal expert knows more about Heath. I'd never heard the case, heard that particular case cited in court until this trial.
Yeah, and what Mike Howard explained yesterday is what Heath did is previously the courts had to be malicious, right? And
There had to be some intent.
right, there had to
showing
be intent.
Mm-hmm.
And then Heath allowed the judge, even if it's not intentional, it gave him kind of a caveat that if it's just negligence, they could still toss the testimony out.
Correct. And that's, from both sides, that's probably the more equitable response and the more equitable approach, because every trial is different, every set of facts is different, and obviously the trial judge is the person that's best situated to decide, hey, what punishment is going to fit for this particular violation. And I think Judge Howell did a good job of explaining very concisely, coming up with his ruling. And obviously he has a lot of credibility in that area, since he was the one that had to personally participated in the Michael Morton case. So he has a lot of credibility, a lot of deference to him. And I personally think the Heath decision is important, and it's going to be very valuable, because a trial judge is the one that's in the best position to see which remedy is warranted for this particular case in this particular set of facts.
Yeah, and what Mike Howard was saying yesterday is that prosecutors' offices hate that ruling.
I'm sure they do. I'm sure they do.
They absolutely dislike that ruling.
Yeah. It's
Well-
Monday morning quarterbacking at the end of the day is what that is. Yeah.
Well, and will be very interesting to see. And I do think, Rebecca, I don't know if you agree with this, that if another incident of this comes up, I shudder to think what the judge would do.
Oh, yeah, this judge did not seem happy at all with the prosecutors, which is why he said that they were negligent at worst. But it's after we hear from this witness today, we do expect that there is going to be some really difficult testimony that the families are going to have to listen to as well. And they've been really preparing themselves for that, Tanya. They are going to, the 911 tape that was played was the first witness was the gentleman who saw the shooter drive into that culvert in front of the funeral home and then begin shooting. And I will tell you, Tanya, I have covered a lot of trials, a lot of very emotional trials, horrific things that have happened. I've never recalled a trial where the entire media pool was in tears. The jury were wiping away tears. The families were sobbing. It is, and that is not even the worst of what they are going to hear and see in the next coming days. And so they're prepared, they're ready, but they also said, we're hearing things and seeing things that we've never seen before. And one of the things that the defense says, anyone who watches this trial and sees what is happening in this courtroom are not going to leave the same.
No, I don't think any of us will be the same after this trial, Rebecca. Well, we appreciate you joining us. We're going to let you go so you can go ahead and get into the courtroom. We appreciate you joining us this morning.